women's liberation and all those stuff that was going on during that period. So he invented little things to stick into the end of your bras, so it looked like you didn't have a bra, but you did have a bra. This was. And then again, see, you're laughing, but you're not. This was a very serious accomplishment, and if you took it lightly, he got offended. You know, that this was, he had found the cure for cancer as far as he was concerned. This was a big deal, but I don't think it made him rich, by the way. I went all over southern Indiana doing these things, and it was a lot of fun. I probably got the most national acclaim, and I use that loosely because I didn't get much national acclaim by any means, writing about the Hibernia Coon Supper. Has anybody ever been to the Hibernia Coon Supper? You didn't like the coon, did you? It's awful.
Yeah.
You liked it?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
The legs are the best.
But anyway, I wrote several times about the Hibernia Coon Supper and tried it once. That was plenty. But I wrote about it, and the national, you never knew when your stories would get, as we call it in the business, picked up by like the Associated Press or somebody. And that happened now and then, but not all the time. But the Associated Press picked up my Hibernia Coon Supper thing and made a huge deal out of it. I was on CNN and some other things talking about the Hibernia Coon Supper, and other people that actually had something to do with the Coon Supper were on it too. They all became sort of big stars. They kind of made fun of it actually, but which isn't a big shock to hear. But that was interesting. But I enjoyed those kind of things. I went to a lot of Pekin 4th of July parades. If you ever get a chance, you really want to do patriotism upright, go to the 4th of July parade in Pekin. Half the town's in the parade, the other half is watching the parade. You could be in the parade. I mean, it doesn't matter. You know, you just. But it's a really, really patriotic, fun thing to do. I went to in Madison. I went and hung out, whatever the term is, with some guys that were Irish road bowlers, and they wore kilts. And they essentially rolled cannonballs down the street, and this was their claim to fame. And I think they, didn't really catch on, but they thought it was pretty cool. I wrote it in. State police called me one day and wanted to know if I wanted to go, as they were going to make some pot plant arrests, go out and look for pot plants, and I said, "Sound like okay thing to do." And they turned out they have these sort of Army surplus Apache helicopter things that they go out in, and where you sit on the side and there's no door, and there's, so we were like all this way looking at pot plants, and I was kind of against marijuana to begin with. By the end of the day, I was really against it. I was hanging out over southern Indiana. But there are a lot of things. There's a guy from Jeff, I can't remember his name, maybe last name was Neil. He would spend weekends panning for gold.
Earl.
In little creeks and streams around here, and he did it for years, and had like a sum total of about half an ounce or something. I mean, it was, but he couldn't tell him it was kind of a dumb way to spend time. He thought it was really interesting. But all these people are out there, and I loved talking about them, and I loved getting to know them, and I miss getting to know more of them. I still had a big stack of ones I wanted to do, and I kind of got cut short doing that. But I put a bunch of them in a book of columns that I put out recently, and if you want to buy a book, I'd be thrilled. If you don't, I understand. I'm not a much of a salesman, and I gave up, as soon as I published it, gave up sort of the notion of breaking even on the thing, so it's okay. But if you want to, that'd be great. But it's, I've been doing a number of these little talks after the book came out, and I wanted to sort of, how can I sort of exploit this opportunity to talk to people? And I wanted one final sort of request, take this one more seriously than buying the book, if you would. One of the things that I was able to do after I retired was get a physical. I'd always put off getting a physical. A lot of men put off getting physicals especially. So I got a physical. Well, it turns out that I have a form of leukemia. And I don't say that to get you upset, because it's as leukemia goes, it's the best possible kind to have. It's a chronic form of leukemia. It's way different than like the coach of the Colts had last year. And at some point, it'll probably cause me some problems, but that's 10 years down the road, 8, 10, 12, maybe longer. I have a stage 0 right now, and that's, I think, as good as it gets. So I don't even get any treatment. There's nothing to treat. There's no reason to get treatment at this point. But I bring it up only to urge you to get a physical. I mean, I think it's good to know. I mean, it could be I've had this for years and didn't know. But it's good to know, I think, these things. And so I'm taking this opportunity to urge people to get physicals if you don't go get physicals, because it's a real important thing. And I'm glad I think, that I have this. It's kind of out there sitting on your shoulder and will be for the rest of my life, but that's okay. I can handle that, and it's good to know. But I didn't want to keep you long, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you have about what I did or the newspaper business in general. It always seems like people have opinions about how things are changing and the newspaper business is changing, but everything's changing. Technology is just a phenomenal part of our lives. It's changed things faster than ever. A friend of mine had lunch today, and he was telling me he'd read a story that said college kids aren't going to their college football games anymore, the games at their own school. And one of the reasons is because these big stadiums don't have Wi-Fi. I don't know if some of you even know what that is. I hardly know what it is, but they can't go 3 hours without doing this thing, you know. So they don't go to the games because they don't have Wi-Fi. I mean, that's. Jimmy tried to communicate with me via Facebook. Now I can see Facebook. I'm on Facebook, whatever that means, but I don't know how to communicate on it. I don't know how to. But we're all at different points on this spectrum of technology. I mean, do you have a cell? I'm curious. Do you have a cell phone, Bob? Do you?
Yeah.
Do you text?
No, occasionally.
See, you text. There you go. That's great. Mr. Scott, do you text? There, he's got a cell phone.
No, I use it as a defibrillator. So people mourn the newspaper, and I do think that there will be a day before too long where the hold in your hand paper will probably be gone. Yeah.
It would already be gone if they could figure out a way to make money doing it the other way. But they can't make money. But once they figure that out, it'll be gone quick because it's expensive. And yes, yeah.
What your idea, like when you have the transition, like with Bozich and Crawford going to WDRB, going out of the newspaper business into the TV business?
That was real fascinating, and that caught them flat-footed at the newspaper. They didn't expect that, and now there's been some other people from the paper also join channel WDRB. I guess I'm too ugly for TV. They haven't asked me to do that, but it's mostly they got asked to do that to write for their website more than to be on TV, or as much at least. And so I can't figure it out where it's going. This woman I work for in Salem, this kind of crazy, neat lady I work for in Salem, she doesn't know, you know. They started a website, you know, they've got the Salem Leaders online, and you just have to do that, but you don't know where it's heading. And nobody does.
Made quite a drastic change in format in the last week or so.
Yeah.
Courier.
Yeah. It just gets smaller and smaller, and in every way, I think it even gets narrower. If you find an old like Courier Journal or something in your attic or something, it's amazing how wide it was and how big it was. You know, it's sad. A lot of it's sad.
Called progress.
Yes.
Dale, when you went to the Coon Supper, was Dickie Jones dishing out the meal?
Of course.
Yeah.
I guarantee.
Oh my God, yeah. Have you been to it?
Oh, several times.
Did you eat the coon?
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm not a coon.
You're a smart man.
I ate it.
Did you really? You liked it?
Oh, I like it. Of course, I put Miracle Whip on it and all.
But Jerry,
Jerry ate it.
Yeah, he puts ketchup on it.
You like it?
The legs are the best.
With ketchup, probably.
Yeah.
I didn't put stuff on it, I should have put stuff on it.
It's different.
But they also had chicken.
But I think it's a whole lot better than a possum. I've never tried a possum.
Roadkill.
We all should have a coon supper.
No.
How's that, Doris?
No.
I just won't be here, me and him. Yes.
Another question too, I remember one of your columns, you mentioned that you once on a trip had a heart attack, didn't you, in New York? Or had some heart
Yeah,
issues?
yeah, going down memory lane on my illnesses. I
Yeah.
also have heart disease.
Yeah.
I don't have diabetes, I think, so, yeah. We were in New York on vacation, and I had pleurisy once before. I don't know if anybody's ever had pleurisy, but it's around your heart and it hurts like crazy,
Yeah.
but it's not very serious. And I thought that's what it was again, turned out, so I walked around New York City being a tourist for 2 days, having a heart attack. And finally got in a cab and went to the hospital that some foreign cab driver recommended I go to. That was my consultant, you know. And just, you know, God was with me that day, because we ended up at like one of the best heart hospitals in the world. You know, I got better care than I probably would have even gotten here, and you get good care here, I'm not knocking that, but, you know, it just was total luck. And so I'm okay with that too, I think. We'll see, you know. But,
What's your education background?
I went to, well, graduated Jeff High last year with the old school, we were talking about that. And I went to IUS for a while, and then finished at IU up in Bloomington, majored in political science. I didn't know I really wanted to do this until, I mean, I didn't major in journalism. And, wasn't sure I wanted to do this, but it was a lot of fun. I really did enjoy just talking to people. I don't know if I'm a good writer or not, I'll let other people decide that, but I just loved meeting people. And there were so many really neat people out there. You know, right up to the end, I enjoyed talking to people.
Oh, like I said, hail Purdue.
Is that right? I like Purdue.
Go to IU, you lose your hair.
What was that Northern Illinois Purdue score last week?
Dale, I did see where at Indiana they were talking about like consolidating the journalism school into another school or something like that. When you foresee more schools going that route with
Probably so.
newspapers maybe going away.
Yeah, you kind of learn how to do a lot of stuff. Like a lot of the colleagues that I left behind are now doing video. Like a woman who worked in the desk next to me, she's covering this David Cam trial. And if you notice on the website of the Courier-Journal, you may not look at that, but she does a video there every day where she's actually talking like a TV reporter, you know.
Yeah.
Well, none of us got trained at that, so that's all kind of part of this whole cross training. I never had to even take pictures for 20 years. I didn't take a picture. I didn't, you know, we had photographers. We had great photographers at the Courier-Journal. And all of a sudden, I'd come to work one day and there's a hidden camera on my desk. You know, I'm now a photographer. It all just sort of, it changed. And I've told the story that they called us in one day and said, you all have to, me and Bob Hill, they called and said we had to start vlogging. Well, at that point, I didn't, it was like, might as well have said, you know, paper the walls or, you know, put up aluminum siding. I had no idea what vlogging was, you know, and I sort of learned, but it is changing. It's all, there would be no point to learn to be a newspaper person at this point. I think it's pretty inevitable that that's gone.